Are you looking to get into this crazy housing market right now? Let me give you 5 must-dos before you make any decisions. All right, what's up everybody? My name's Rob Scout and I'm with EXP Realty here in Southern Maryland. Today we're going to talk about 5 must-dos you must do before you really jump into the housing market that we have going on right now in 2022 in Southern Maryland. But before I get started, like I've said before, if you need any help or you have any questions, reach out to me so we can help you move down here. My number one goal is to help people move down to Southern Maryland, to find the right fit for them, to find this area that speaks to them. So I'd love to help you do that as well. Use the contact information below. Call me, text me, however it works for you. And also, if you scroll down to the first comment and click on that link in the first comment, that will take you to my calendar that will set up a Zoom meeting with me one-on-one and kind of discuss your must-haves, what you need, and maybe some of your fears you have about relocating to Southern Maryland. And lastly, if you haven't yet, make sure you click the subscribe button and click the little bell so you're notified every single time we put out new content about moving to Southern Maryland. All right, so enough of that. Let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to talk about today is the 5 must-dos before you jump into this housing market. Now, you've probably heard all about it. Ever since 2021-ish and a little bit before that, the housing market has been crazy, and Southern Maryland has not been exempt from that. We've seen the cost of housing rise. We've seen the days on market that a house lasts on the market go down to some cases in the more desirable areas to 1 or 2 days. So these are 5 must-dos to make it so you're competitive in this market. I've said this a lot on different videos, but the number one thing you should do is talk to a lender. Now, I'm a big proponent of local lenders because they're local people, they're real people that will talk you through the process, and they can really get you the best picture of what it looks like for you to buy a house. You can tell them all your hopes and dreams and what you kind of want and what you think your budget is, and over a brief phone call, they can take all that information and really give you an idea of what your budget really is. And in some cases, it can be higher, some cases it can be lower, but then you know what you're looking at. All right, and so after talking to that lender, the number 2 thing, of course, is setting a budget. Now, a budget is something that it can cause a lot of friction between people because it's kind of a hard thing to set. You know, what do you feel comfortable spending? What do you think, the homes you're looking at are value? What do you feel, like you want to put out there for yourself? It's a hard thing to do, but I think one of the best things to do is to really have that conversation with that local lender, talking about your budget, and have the conversation with those other people that are buying with you, whether it be a spouse or a significant other, and make sure you're both on the same page so we don't have that house hunter situation where, we're so far apart on budget that there's no reconciliation and the home process and the home buying process just stalls because, we can't agree on that. So have that conversation about budget. And honestly, kind of going to the third thing is your budget should be based on your must-haves. So number 3 thing you should do before jumping into this market is sit down with the people that you're buying your house with, whether it be your family, your siblings, your mom, your dad, whoever you're doing it with, and write down your must-haves. Not your like-to-haves, your absolute must-haves. I've been working with buyers that must have a basement or must have a garage. And those are the things we have to look for and we have to find. And so make sure you're doing the same thing. Sit down, talk to each other, and really decide what are my must-haves, what do we have to have in these houses so we can really agree on these are my must-haves, these are the type of houses that have the must-haves, and this is the budget that those houses fall in. And it's going to be so much easier if you have that conversation of your must-haves, and then you can fit those must-haves into that budget you have and really have a better idea and a more focused idea of what you're going to be able to do financially and with your must-haves. Now, I'm not saying that you should only buy a house that has your must-haves. You should also be talking about what your like-to-haves were, and maybe that kind of narrows that focus down even more on the different houses you're looking at, but it's got to be a conversation. It can't be something that kind of happens throughout the process of looking at homes. You want to know when we start looking at homes that you have your must-have, that you have your like-to-have, so when you're in this quick-moving housing market, you're able to move quickly and nimbly as well. Going into number 4, in that initial call with your lender or talk with your lender, you're going to really want to talk about ways that you're putting your best self forward to the banks. So really understanding that what your DTI is, your debt to income ratio, and how you can improve that is a conversation you're going to want to have with your lender. You're going to want to tackle debt before we start going out, and you want to tackle it smartly. You don't want to just start paying off random stuff or taking all the money that you saved and paying off a credit card. The great thing about a local lender, the great thing about talking to a person is they can almost help you build that credit and help you, get your DTI to a more healthy range when you're working with someone local. And they're really good at that, and they've been trained on that, and they'd be happy to help you do that. So when you have that first initial conversation with the lender, ask them what your DTI is. Ask them how you can improve it. What debt should I pay off? What debt should I, not pay off? I have, on a personal level, I had a great loan officer when I first bought my first home who just opened my eyes to exactly how I can position myself to make sure that my money goes the absolute farthest when I'm looking for a home. And that was all through DTI, debt to income ratio, and that was all through strategically paying off debt that we had that was affecting our DTI. One caveat that I want to make sure you understand is once we go out there talking about debt, once we go out there, you make an offer on a house and you get it accepted, don't open any credit cards. Don't change your credit. Don't buy a car. Don't buy that, IKEA couch on the IKEA credit card or the credit store card that you've always been wanting. Wait the 30 days until it's all closed. There's been many of deals that have been killed because that DTI was right on the edge. The debt to income ratio was right on the edge, and that new credit account put it over. So the last thing I want to talk about is knowing the lingo. Now, it can be overwhelming, and it can feel like people are speaking a different language to you when they're going over different contracts. But the biggest thing I want you to understand is there's different key terms that you're going to want to know when you're going through this home buying process in this market. Talking about closing costs, that's the amount of money it's going to take for you to close the loan with the bank, and it also includes taxes and loan origination fees and all that kind of stuff. So really understanding with your lender what the closing costs are going to be, and with your title company and your escrow company what the closing costs are going to be. So that's a big one, understanding what closing costs are. The next one is an earnest money deposit. Now, an earnest money deposit is basically a good faith deposit to the seller saying, hey, we're super serious about your house. We're going to put down 1% of the purchase price, set it aside to show you that we're serious. And that earnest deposit just shows that seller that you are serious, that you're the qualified candidate, that you have the financial ability to move forward with the contract, and it just shows good faith. Now, that earnest money deposit always gets applied back to your closing costs, so it's not just money that goes to the seller at the end of it or just disappears. It's money that's just kind of set aside to show that seller that, hey, you're super serious about this, you're able to financially do this. Another one that I haven't been seeing as much in Southern Maryland is an appraisal gap. In some areas, we're really seeing this a lot where the home values aren't keeping up with the sale values. And so what a lot of buyers are doing is they say if there's a gap between the amount that I'm paying for the house and the amount that the bank values the house at, that the buyer would make up that gap, and that's called the appraisal gap. Now, I had a recent situation where we did have an appraisal gap. It was about a $15,000 difference between the purchase price and the appraisal price, and actually instead of the buyer making up that whole gap, the buyer and seller split the gap. So it's still something that down here at least, the appraisal gap's not as huge of a deal, but it's something that you might want to be aware of. So if you need to, if you need to reconcile an appraisal gap, so you're really aware of that. That's some of the big stuff you're going to want to really listen to. But honestly, the best thing you can do, and I hope that you do, is always feel comfortable asking questions. Work with someone, whether it be the lender or the real estate agent, that doesn't mind answering your questions. If you ask a question, you deserve to have the answer. And so don't hesitate when something doesn't sound right, when something doesn't look right, or you just don't understand, to ask a question. Ask, because that is the best way to know what you're getting into. Nobody should get frustrated with someone asking a question. Can be an overwhelming, complicated process, just buying the house and moving and all the other stuff. That's why we're here. We're here to help you. We're here to answer questions for you. So make sure you ask them. All right, so hopefully this video, 5 must-dos before getting into the housing market in Southern Maryland, helped you out. If it did, make sure you click the subscribe button, click the little bell so you're notified every time we put out new content. And also, If you're looking to move down here, if you need help, if you want me to help you out, make sure you use that contact information below. Call me, text me, however you want to get in touch with me. And you can also scroll down to the first comment, click the link in that first comment, and it will take you to my Calendly, and it will set up a Zoom meeting with you and me where we can talk about your needs when you're moving to Southern Maryland. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you on the next video.